All right, folks, Gene Gowan with the Chatham Journal. I got Pat Welder. Which station are you again, 17?
WRAL Channel 5.
Yeah, WRAL Channel 5. And we got, of course, our regular Asheebo Rojas. We are not doing a live stream on Chatham NC Sports, but we're here at Hops and Berry, and it is draft night. So we're here to talk about, if folks don't know, Pat did the documentary last year, The Prince of Pittsburgh, on the story of Drake Powell. We're here at a watch party at Hops and Berry. Gentlemen, we've had 4 picks. Do you want to start off with what you've seen out there so far?
We saw, of course, Cooper Flag go first, and then we had Dylan Harper follow him, going to San Antonio on the second pick, BJ Edgecombe going to the 76ers, and then we just had Conklin getting picked, high pick, we thought, for the Charlotte Hornets.
2 Duke players in the top 5.
Yeah, so two lottery players for Duke. So kind of expected that a little bit, but definitely higher than we expected. And so I think that's the biggest one, for us here in North Carolina. A lot of Hornets fans out here that following that. What do you think of that pick for Charlotte?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's a good fit pick, right? Like, I don't know if Conklin to me was a top 5 talent per se, but he delivers a surefire skill in shooting. So you know what you're going to get. If you're Charlotte, you're like, oh, well, we got LaMelo at the point, we got Brandon Miller on the wing, we need some shooting. Conklin is your guy. I look at this draft, Ace Bailey to me, is just so talented to leave on the table. Yeah. The story with him's a little weird with workouts and going to Rutgers. They didn't win, so I'm tantalized by what he could do on the court. Watching his tape, stood out really among almost anybody in this whole draft other than Cooper Flag. So teams are going to regret potentially passing on that guy, or they're going to be like, see, that's why we passed on that guy. It's going to go one way or the other,
Yep, and I think Ace Bailey just got picked.
Did he?
Yep, right as we're talking about him.
Jazz?
To the Utah Jazz. So that's
there you go.
Yeah, folks.
Right
Ace Bailey. Yep. There you go. Yep, so we got people excited for Ace Bailey. I like that for the Jazz. That's a team, bottom of the league as well last year, looking to kind of add some young talent. Like you said, a talent that, you can't really pass up on depending on, really no matter what his story is surrounding him. He could be a really good addition to your team, both offensively and defensively. And but the big guy we're here for
Drake
is Drake Powell. And so we've heard, late first round, early second round for him, pretty much his whole process with the mock drafts and what teams have been interested in him. Big one that we're looking at is Brooklyn, and that 26, 27
5 picks in the first round.
Yeah.
They're going to take a lot of people.
Yep. So they have a lot going on in this first round. And, what do you think of Brooklyn, I guess, as a fit here before we even get to that point? But considering the interest and what we've seen so far.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a great market to be in New York, although I'm not sure Drake necessarily cares about that as much as he does the basketball. As far as the basketball fit, it's a team that's rebuilding. So he's going to go there. If he goes there, it'd be a chance to have a chance, which is really what you're asking for, and develop and have some room to grow. Because I think the thing we've seen with Drake is a lot of us, I think, who covered him last year, maybe some of you agree, thought maybe he'd come back to Carolina so he'd have a chance to be the star at Carolina. Because so much of his story last year was giving up some for the good of the team. He played out of position for most of the year at the 4, which I think about an NBA team just speaks to his versatility. This is a guy that can not only guard 1 through 4 on defense, he can play 1 through 4 on offense. 4 might have been a little bit of a stretch, but he could at least knock down the corner 3, and I think he's got a lot more to his game. So if he goes to a place like Brooklyn, he's going to have a chance to show it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same thing, especially Brooklyn. A team like that, or a team that is looking to add just some young talent to rebuild. It's not a lot of pressure going in your first year, right, to win immediately, and I think he'll get a big opportunity to show what he did offensively in high school, a little bit earlier in his career at UNC. And, yeah, like you said, he showed some of that production from the three-point line, which is good, and I've heard he's shot pretty well in some of these workouts as well. So I think if he goes there, of course, defensively, no question, he's going to bring that to your team.
Yeah.
He's going to bring the defense, rebounding, and just energy. So, the offensive thing for a lot of NBA teams might be a question, but I think if he gets the ball in his hands, he gets some confidence on his belt early, I think he'll be a really good fit at a team like that. And now there's another team I know I've seen maybe early second round with Boston. A lot of mock drafts have him maybe going there. And I think just in that range of picks, I think it's a good situation for him because, of course, you got some good teams in that area picking in the draft. And you could get into a good situation, maybe go ahead and start contending will start with a contending team, which could do very well for his career. So, yeah, I think Drake is in a good situation coming into tonight.
Pat, what's your feelings on Boston?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston's a team, now, Danny Ainge is now in Utah, who just picked, but it's a team that historically emphasizes the wing position. They built their team through Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum out for next year. Jaylen Brown potentially on the trade block. They're looking at a little reset and reload here as they kind of won the NBA title and had last season go horribly wrong with the injury to Tatum. So, you know, Drake's player reminds me a little bit of Jaylen Brown, where Jaylen Brown was taken 3rd overall, which was higher than a lot of teams expected, but he was a bit of a project coming into the NBA. And I think Drake's more polished than he is, but I see a similar athletic profile in a guy that's 6'6", can shoot, can defend multiple positions, and so it's similar in that way. Like I look at Drake and like the high end, to me, like if I'm allowed to say it, is like Kawhi Leonard or a Jason Tatum, like a guy on the wing that could create, defend, and then Leonard's the one that stands out to me most because the defense came first, and then the offensive creation came later. Now, would I bet that Drake could be a superstar of that level, win an NBA championship? Like the odds are not in your favor to be that, but I think the ceiling is there. And as I look at this draft class, it's funny to me how like a former McDonald's All-American, went to UNC, 5-star recruit, top 10 player in the nation coming out of high school, has been pushed down this far. Like when on paper, the VJ Edgecombe went, what did he go? 3rd overall. Like I don't see that big of a difference between the two players, other than like Edgecombe averaged 15 points per game his freshman year, and Drake averaged 7.
Yeah, like that point with the numbers, I think that's what a lot of teams are kind of concerned with, because like you said, we didn't see a lot of Drake blossoming offensively to what we've seen. They say he did in high school and all-star games before that. So yeah, I think Boston's interesting because remember they also just traded Drew Holiday to Portland, and so they're going to need some defense to replace what Drew Holiday brought at the 1 position, and of course from pretty much the 1 to 3 position as a defender. So yeah, like I said, that range that he's looking to be in tonight, I think there's a lot of good teams he can land with and a lot of good situations he can end up in. Like you said, the biggest thing is, can he come in, can he produce offensively, because NBA teams are looking for that. Of course, in today's NBA game, it's fast-paced, up and down, scoring a lot of points. And defensively, we know that's going to be very valuable to a lot of NBA teams because, like we said, offensive skill is probably as high as it's ever been in the league today. And what he brings on that end of the end of the ball on the defensive end, I think it'll be a plus. He can come out here, like we said, we saw him knock down some threes at UNC. We can bring that to the table, be a 3D guy, or I can see him going even higher than that, having the ball in his hands, maybe creating some plays for some.
Well, because in high school, like obviously, like a lot of the best players on the high school team of his caliber are going to have the ball a lot. Right. But I saw like the gift for distributing, playmaking, passing. Which is 3 different ways to say the same thing.
Did you once say he was an unselfish player, or unselfish
He's
star
got
player?
A little bit of that, like Cooper Flagg, as Northwood High School's principal, comes on through.
Former principal. He's been promoted.
Oh, of course.
This is former. He's got to get out.
All right. All right.
The live stream.
We're doing live stream. These guys are having a blast talking about that. I can definitely say that. Okay.
But yeah, I was just trying to say, like, yeah, he's a guy that. Like a Cooper Flagg, LeBron James lets the game come to him. Isn't necessarily looking to score first. Like he reads the room, he reads the court, he reads the story of the game, which is an IQ level not a lot of players have. So like, yeah, like a player like Cam Thomas, who's on Brooklyn, who was just like a lights out scorer in LSU. Like that's not Drake, but like. It's hard to make a living on NBA, believe it or not, just as a scorer. So I think like what Drake brings, the well-rounded game, the additive game, the ability to adapt his game, could be very valuable. And I think there's more playmaking to be had at the NBA level. Like he had the ball in his hands. Like at 6'6", like if he was a 6'6" point guard prospect instead of a wing prospect, I think he would have gone top 10. But because of like the upside of it, and it's like all about the positioning. So I don't know if there was another way they could have done this. Between his career at Carolina, how he was positioned to the NBA. Maybe he's not a point guard, like I'm not a scout. It's just interesting how like that positional combination with your size changes so much where you go in the lottery.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting to see how, he can translate, his game can translate to the league because of where the league is going. And we know a lot of teams, once a team wins a championship, a lot of teams try to kind of replicate that. And both the teams we saw in the finals, right, Indiana and Oklahoma City, we're going to defend you, we're going to turn you over, and we're going to get out in transition.
Yeah.
And like you said, play up and down, fast-paced basketball. Drake Powell, I think, is a player that can fit that type. And we saw that at Carolina, right, where they tried to run up and down with Elliot Cadeau, Seth Trimble. He was a guy that can get you a block, throw an outlet pass, or if you get a turnover, he's out running on the side and he's going open for a breakaway dunk. So I think that's a skill I think a lot of teams can think about. Think about adding him to their roster and the kind of system they want to run. And yeah, a team that can play that kind of up and down pace, get out in transition, get some easy buckets type of basketball. I think that would fit Drake pretty well too.
Yeah, and I think to your point there, like Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander were not top picks in their respective drafts. So that speaks to like, just because you're not taken in the top 10 doesn't mean you can't be a top 10 player. We see it every year. I mean, there are multiple famous examples of this. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry was taken later in the top 10. Devin Booker. The list goes on and on and on. Obviously, yeah, more likely to be a star the earlier you're taken, sure. But there's exceptions to that every single year. We just saw it in the NBA Finals. So the draft is continuing behind us. We probably should get back in there.
All right.
Get the whole Pittsburgh community out here to
Okay,
celebrate.
one last question, because you guys seem to have a whole bunch of fun, and they can talk about this. Speaking of which, he's got a show tomorrow. We'll talk about that later. Last question: what do you say to people who say, "Hey, Drake should have stayed around in a second year at UNC"?
Look, the NBA is funny with like the unknown, and as much as I think, yes, Drake could have potentially benefited from coming back, having the ball more, showing more of his offensive game, there's also a chance that he could be right back in the same position again. Maybe like with an increased skill set, but as far as like where he's projected to go in the lottery. I think we saw this a few years ago with Caleb Love, who could have gone after the Final Four season, decided to come back, then he ends up transferring to Arizona, and he's still on the same boat after putting out all that tape and all that experience, and the NBA just doesn't seem to care. So there's a weird kind of flawed argument the NBA has with the unknown versus the known, and there's still some unknown and upside with Drake, which weirdly in the draft a lot of times works to your advantage.
Yeah, and from our time talking to him in high school and the goals he set for himself before he even got to Carolina. I mean, the NBA has always been the goal for him, and I think hearing some things, good things from some scouts, of course, early in the draft process, like you said, the NBA's emphasis on potential and seeing, the body frame he has, the defensive prowess he has, and also the flashes of offense he's shown at Carolina. I think that was enough to get some scouts looking like, hey, this is a guy that we can bring on, we can develop into a solid NBA player. And when you got the chance, you get the chance to go first round here in the NBA draft, coming out as a freshman. And like we said, that's the goal for him, NBA. I think he's the type of guy who doesn't really care too much about being the number one, the lottery. He just wants to get there. He wants to help a team be successful. He wants to be successful himself and just play a really good brand of basketball. And I think he has the best opportunity to do that here tonight. Like we said, teams have been really interested in him in this whole process, and he's projected to go here late first round, early second round. So we'll see.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up because Pat and Asheebo are dying to get back in there because we've missed a couple of picks. But, hey, folks, just make sure, Pat, watch him on WRAL. Asheebo, check him out on the Chatham News and Record. And your podcast tomorrow is what's the name again?
Yeah, the Bricks Podcast. Me, Jalen, and Omar. We're going to do an NBA wrap-up this week with, of course, wrap up with the finals and all of the picks from the NBA draft. So we'll get that out.
And you sometimes do hip-hop, but you're not going to have time for that.
Sports and culture. So, but yeah, of course, sports is a hot thing right now with the NBA and everything. So we're going to wrap that up this week.
All right, folks, that's it. They got to go back in. I got to go back in. Thank you for watching.